What's up, traders? Going 1 for 2 today. Ended up being a red day and actually ended up being a decent red loss, which was around like 1 times our goal that we look for on a daily basis. So being a slow week, that actually ended up giving us 2 red days on the week, which then ended up almost making the week red, which we'll discuss at the end of this video. So let's get to it. Real quick, if you're wondering why my voice sounds like this, we had an amazing baseball game last night. We ended up winning it in extra innings. You know, it was the old bottom of the 10th, 2 outs, bases loaded, full count, and our guy Benji hit a freaking piece to left center to the fence, scoring 2 runs to win it. It charged the field. You know, it was really good, but obviously it was an intense game. It was our first playoff game of the season, so it was really nice to get that win. And yeah, so hit the like button just for that. And if you want to do it for the trading and stuff like that as well, that's also appreciated. So let's get right into this. As always, doing this at 2x speed. If you want to watch these in real time, feel free to go back. I have them time stamped on the live stream. Starting here on LAC, you're going to see us start a position here. Was a little bit extended. Wasn't too fond of the move, but we were obviously just looking to get into a trade. Wanted 2070. Couldn't quite get there at first. Probably should have waited for it because it does eventually get there. And then just looking for it to come back down and get about halfway down towards that VWAP area on this extension. So as you'll see, it does eventually work out, but it does eventually go up through 70 right there. So it would have been nice to get our entry there instead of right at 2050. But it does end up working out in our favor. We can tell it put in a top. You can see if we pause it real quick, you can see it tried to come back and on this initial pullback, this little minor pullback before continuing. So we're front running that for most of the position. And then we're looking to get the rest of it down towards VWAP if possible. Just being a little bit greedy with it since we could tell that it was kind of working out in our favor. Plus we know towards the bell stocks can be a little bit more volatile and we can get those flushes that we look for. So it's working its way down here. We're just going to kind of let this one play out. And it eventually doesn't really ever try to bounce too much. Obviously looking to see if it wants to go back up through 50. Probably just going to take this off break even. That was my mindset. And it never does that. It continues to get sold into, and we eventually, here we go, we get this flush down, finally gets through that 30 area that was trying to hold up, and then you can see it just kind of comes down. I was actually kind of frustrated because today we got a couple times where we should have got filled, but we didn't, and then we end up getting filled, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But I was actually more worried about it on the next trade that we end up getting stopped out on. But you can see VWAPs there, whole dollars there, just looking for it to possibly bounce there since it hasn't bounced at all up to this point, which I think it does eventually bounce, but then it dies all the way back down to this previous resistance. I mean, how many times do we see it through a resistance, and then it comes down, tries to use it as support, or continues down? It doesn't really matter. But what's the probable move? The intense move into the pullback, right? That's what we're looking for. That's what we got. And that was our trade on LAC. Now, TIRX, I'm going to end up coming through this a little bit on the fast side. Let's see. I guess I click over and hit the button right away. You can see we change it over, figure out our share size. Wasn't a huge fan. Obviously, it has that 570. I had already drew these lines all for the hourly, but you can tell it almost looked a little grindy. Like you can see a bunch of little pullbacks within this move, even when zoomed out like this. So just kind of keep that in mind. It was something that became very frustrating throughout this trade. But you can see it trying to come back down through 550. It just did not want to. Average of 554. Comes within 2 pennies of us there, which would have obviously been nice. Could have just been out of the trade. And then once it did not get us and ends up going higher, with no real pullback, now this thing starts to become frustrating because now look at it. It's starting to look like a grinder. VWAP's climbing, the 9's climbing, everything's climbing. And you can see us inching our order up there just to try to get out of this at this point. But then it goes higher, right? So no real major pullback, so I'm okay. We had these other major areas on the daily to look forward to. So that's kind of what we were looking at, 581 here. But I kind of felt like this just wanted to go higher, so I was waiting. And as you can see, I do. I end up trying to hit the ass there at 593. I think I lower it down a little bit, and we end up getting filled there at 89. And I believe, yeah. So this is the turning moment. So I want you to watch my actions here. So we get filled. We want to put some orders out just in case it flushes. So that's what I do to take half the order out, a little bit under our average. And then right here, you can see we go back to our position, which is 100 shares now. We want to change that to 50 because we're looking to possibly get a double add on the north side of 6. But just in case it doesn't want to go through 6 and hold, we were going to look to add those 50 on the way back down. But here's what happens. Look at how quick that happened. I'm actually going to slow this down to 25%, and I want to watch this as it happens. You see how quick that happened? But so it goes from 6, and look at, I mean, the bid is still at 598. And I knew this thing was a little bit spready as well, which is why I was hitting the ask to begin with. But if you watch it go through, this thing goes through 6, it goes right to 615, 616. We hit the ask right there, 615, and that quick, it jumps down. We're still on the ask technically, but never get filled. And then it goes back down below 6, and we never get a chance to get filled. Like, that's how quick it happened. So it comes back up to 615 there. I didn't even notice that at first. And we just don't get filled. So right here, I'm like, all right, do I drag my order down? But no, then it flushes. So now if we'd be chasing that back down. And I'm frustrated that we missed our ad, but it would be too close to this one. And that wasn't what I was looking for. I was looking to get filled on the north side of 6, and we didn't get that. So that was very frustrating. You can see how, I mean, it was that fast that we just got missed. And if we watch it in the 2x speed, I mean, you can see, I mean, it literally happened so fast. I was ready for it, but I wasn't expecting to hit it and it just get shoved immediately down and then not get filled like that. But unfortunately, that's exactly what happened. And we end up missing it. So now when we fast forward, you're going to see it comes down right to our average. Our average is at 71.5, and it comes down to 73. And so it bounces right off our average. You know, we're obviously just looking to get out of this. I changed this to 100 full position to get out there at 567, just looking to get out, basically break even, trying to front run that previous resistance just in case it tries to use it as support, right? Obviously, we wish our first entry was up here, not down here at this point. And, you know, if we could have possibly gotten away with that if we waited for that 570 like we should have in the first place. But again, was really just a bad first entry because I was just looking to trade. And in hindsight, it was a really bad entry because, you know, it was kind of grindy. And once I zoomed in, I realized it was kind of, you know, it already had a pretty good pullback here. But when I was zoomed out, you couldn't really necessarily see it unless you really looked. And then it had another pullback. You know, it was very up and down to this point. So even though it was extended, there was a bigger story behind it that I just didn't see. But you're going to see this. It tries to go higher. I was okay to try to get my ad back in here if it wanted to try high of day, but it doesn't quite get there. And the spread was actually kind of shit as well. So it was kind of hard to get an ad on the north side of 6 unless I hit the ask. But then I was risking it going high of day right after I added. So it was kind of, you know, I don't want to say scared money, but I just didn't want my ad to be too close together there. I wanted to give it a chance. I didn't want to get knocked out of this trade if it did go to high of day, you know, getting too big too fast kind of thing. So as you can see, it coming down, misses us again. It starts to form support right above our average by a couple pennies. We're just going to kind of fast forward. But what I noticed here is every time it would come down, it was forming support here. However, it started to look like a descending triangle. So the further we go along into this, you can see a descending triangle starting to form. And I felt pretty confident about it. I was like, okay, we're going to get this 50 test, right? We're going to finally get through the 70. There's going to be a nice little flush. It was almost not respecting VWAP at all. You can see it would kind of go down. It would get bought back up, but it kept trying to get back down. It was almost like it wasn't really too worried about VWAP. So again, I was just trying to front run that previous resistance, but it just kept getting held up at that 72 area. And I think we finally did get through 72. It went to 71, but that's exactly where my average was. And so obviously the ask never came down to that, so we couldn't have taken it off for a win anyway. But even it tries to go a little bit higher here and rejects, still in the descending triangle form. And then, you know, eventually it does come down and try again. And I'm like, okay, this is the time. Like this, I mean, it can't look like a better descending triangle after this move here. Or is this where I take it off? Okay, so it was actually on that move here. But it starts to curl up. And this line here, you know, we're just looking, okay, it's starting to curl. We're obviously wrong. We're going to take half the position off if it breaks 6. And then the other half at high of day if it gets there, because, you know, it still could just fake out through 6 and continue down, which would be fine. But unfortunately, it just keeps on going, and they decide to buy it up and stop hunt because, as you'll see, I actually added back into this because I was like, well, if we're going to stop at a high of day, like at this point, I'm stopping out at high of day, but my average is still absolute crap. and we're really close to where our stop is. So I was willing to take some additional risk just to add shares as close to my stop as possible, so that if for some reason it does reject right above the 6 area, because it was really starting to struggle. It kept hitting like 610, 614, and then getting shot down to 610, 614, then getting shot down to 6. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to try to get up as high as I can, which I think we actually end up getting like 614 when I hit the button. Okay, it was 609. So I'm basically looking, I'm taking a little bit extra risk, but now if it rejects, we now have our average up at 590. Right? So now if we get that move back down and it only wants to find support here again at 570, it's okay, because we'll be in the green again and we can try to get some of this back. Unfortunately, it does try to go down that one time and then ultimately just ends up going up and stopping us out. And if you want, you can watch what happens here, but it was a fake out breakout. And this thing, I think, ended up all the way back down here at 525, which actually, just go ahead and take a look at it, because that was the end of the trade. And let's pull it up real quick. Yeah, pretty brutal. We ended up pretty much top ticking that thing, and then it finally did what we were hoping it would do over here. So the big money came in, propped it up, stop hunted, took all the shorts money, and then, made all the money themselves. It's what they do, but again, it's hindsight, right? This thing could have easily have been pushed up through, went up and halted at 680 or whatever the halt price was, and continued, gapped up to 720. Like, you don't know, right? You don't know that this is what the big guys are going to do. This is why you just have to have a strategy, and you have to follow your strategy. And that's what I did. Didn't get my ad. Could have been a completely different trade. It would have been a green trade had we got that ad at 615. We didn't. It found support right at our average, which sucked. So we looked for this to be a descending triangle. The descending triangle failed. So we scaled out some on that key break of the whole dollar. We added back in looking for that to be a fake break at the whole dollar, forming a lower high. Unfortunately, they wanted to make sure that they got all the stops as much as they could. And as you can see, that was the biggest candle, because that was them entering their short position. So a little frustrating. I highly thought about it right in the moment to get back in, for the fake out breakout, but I was pretty pissy about missing the ad, and I realized that I was emotionally not intact. So out of respect for myself and my plan of not trading when I'm emotional, I didn't take the trade. So I was actually pretty happy in hindsight about that. So I can't really be too upset. Yeah, it's not about the money at this point. It's about how I'm trading, because again, consistency first, the money will follow. And $50 is $50. It's not that big of a deal. But at the same time, I was just upset because I didn't get that ad, because this would have been a green trade. Am I mad at not taking off at least some at break even? A little bit, but I really noticed that this was gonna form the descent. It was forming the descending triangle, and I really wanted to be patient for once and wait for one of those descending triangles to work. But unfortunately, the 70% or so win rate on descending triangles did not show up in this one. So that was the two trades. On the week, I know I said I'd show this at the end of the video. Let's go to full screen real quick. Let's get rid of this guy. So here was my week. Let's do this so you don't see all those unnecessary tabs. That's the wrong window. So this was my week. We ended up $2.95, 80% win rate, profit factor 1.03. We took 10 trades. That should give you an indication of how crappy this week was. 10 trades. And most of our winners were actually decent winners. I can't really complain. Higher than what we looked to make on a trade, right around it, a little bit lower, right around it. This was obviously just a crap trade. Or, that was the other red trade, which gave us a red day on Tuesday. Right around it, and then a smaller trade on close. So I can't really complain with the winners. Like I said, if TIRX is a decent winner, take 52, add 52 back to this plus whatever we would have made on the trade. So it could have been, a slow but okay week, but it ended up now being a break-even week. So it is what it is. Unfortunately, these are going to happen. But all we got to do is go over to this tab here on TraderSync and take a look at our overall progress and realize that we're going to be okay, right? This is the year to date, and it sucks, right? It's a wash week basically. But hey, it's a wash week. We didn't lose money overall. So, That's all I got for you. We're not going to do the Friday night live stream tonight. I'm going to take a break, give my voice, a little bit of a break, spend time with the kids, actually get some sleep. I think I'm going to take some ZZZ Quill tonight and get in bed early because I need some sleep. I've been lacking in that department all week. I've been up to like midnight to 1 o'clock every night this week. And then last night I was, just on a high from the baseball game, and I didn't get to sleep until like almost 1:30. So gonna just take the night off. It's just kind of a mental health day, I guess, if you want to call it. And I hope you all have a good weekend. Hopefully everybody else had a good day, a good week, and I will see you guys Monday morning. Peace.